Welcome to the Daily MBA, where business wisdom is served fresh and fast, straight from one of the top MBA programs in the world. I'll give you summaries of my lectures and readings, as well as the most important insights gained from an MBA, so you can apply all of this knowledge in every business. Let's get started.
Hi, in today's episode, I'm going to explain something crucial for startups, and it's the product market fit. So why do you think 9 out of 10 startups fail? The answer often lies in this simple concept: product market fit. If you don't get this right, nothing else will matter. And so you might be thinking, what is product market fit? Well, Mark Andreessen defined product market fit as being in a good market with a product that can satisfy that market. And if we break it down simply, this is going to be the moment when your product will solve a real problem for a clearly defined audience and they love it enough. And this is going to be something that's crucial for startups. Even though it sounds very simple, product market fit is going to be something very hard to achieve. And without it, marketing or sales effort won't work because you won't find a demand, and this is going to be the thing that will stop startups from scaling or for growing. So the high failure rate of startups, it's going to be mostly due to the lack of product market fit, and that's why it's so important to get it right. So if we look at the key signs of what is a product market fit, or what would indicate that we are getting close to a product market fit, this is going to be when customers can't live without your product. So of course, you can see this in your charts. You will have very strong retention rates. Also, you will have organic growth through word of mouth. So this is something that I was mentioning earlier that happened to Nubank, for example. They didn't even have to pay for advertising because their customers loved their product so much that they would be the ones in charge of spreading out this product through word of mouth. Another sign might be positive customer feedback and their willingness to pay. So if customers like you and they're willing to pay more money for your services, of course, this is going to be a good sign. And for companies that are manufacturing a specific product, not a service or not a software, it's going to be struggling to keep up with demand. So if, for example, I'm very good at cooking and I start selling some brownies, I may be finding product market fit if I'm struggling to keep up with demand and everyone wants to buy my own brownies, but I can't keep up. So this is like a very simple example, but it would be how it would look like. And you will see that all of the big companies like Airbnb or Slack or anyone that has achieved product market fit is going to become very, very successful. But there are some misconceptions also around the product market fit, because it's not just about having a perfect product or being profitable right away, and it's not just a sales number. You really want to know if you're solving a problem deeply, and that's why product market fit is going to be so hard to achieve. Companies that fail to look at the importance of this might start burning out all of their cash to create products that nobody really wants. They might have frustration because of the low engagement or the high churn, and it will also be very difficult to scale. So companies should prioritize, all of the startups I think should prioritize their path to finding product market fit, because this will make them grow easily. They will reduce the CAC, it will increase the LTV. It will make it easier to iterate and improve the product because you're solving something that is a must-have problem for most of the users. So you may be thinking, okay, this sounds ideal, but how do you actually find it? Well, it's going to be a long process. You can't just have product market fit with a good idea. It will be like an iterative process. So first thing that you should do would be start with a minimum viable product, which is abbreviated as an MVP. Here, what you want to do is build something small to test your core value proposition. And once you have this small thing, you can gather feedback from early adopters and know what works, what doesn't. And it doesn't stop over there. You're going to take that feedback and iterate rapidly. You're going to improve based on the feedback and test again. So this is going to be a moment where you will have to work a lot. You will take MVP, test, refine, and new MVP, MVP 2.0, test, refine, MVP 3.0, test, refine, and you will go testing it that way. Then, if you understand the problem and the customer, you'll be able to know what they want. And over here, I want to talk about a book that is amazing for this, and it's Alberto Savoya's The Right It. And you can try to do some pretotyping. So maybe you've heard of prototyping. Prototyping is when you develop something of how it would look. But pretotyping goes even one step before that, and it is kind of like saying pretend prototype. But because it's very long to say like a pretend prototype, it's a pretotype. So you're pretending to have a prototype already. And you can start doing this also if you don't have enough resources to build your minimum viable product. But having an MVP is one step that you should for sure do, because you want people to be testing. And while you're testing with them, you should also be conducting customer discovery interviews, because this is going to be very important. You can't assume that because you have a good product, people are going to love it. You should always talk to the users. This is the most valuable thing a founder can do. And talking to the users is going to involve either talking to them about your MVP and gathering feedback, but also just having potential interviews and asking them about their pain points, their challenges, what things are they struggling with, and avoid all of the leading questions. So you don't want to be telling them, oh, have you ever thought of something that might help you do this? You should instead focus on listening and not biasing them towards the solution, but understanding truly their problem. Because sometimes you may be thinking this is going to be a great product, but in real life, nobody's having that problem, so nobody will buy that product. So what you want to ensure is that you get the pain points and challenges correctly in order to develop your MVP.
This message comes from Greenlight. Ready to start talking to your kids about financial literacy? Meet Greenlight, the debit card and money app that teaches kids and teens how to earn, save, spend wisely, and invest with your guardrails in place. With Greenlight, you can send money to kids quickly, set up chores, automate allowance, and keep an eye on your kids' spending with real-time notifications. Join millions of parents and kids building healthy financial habits together on Greenlight. Get started risk-free at greenlight.com/Spotify.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
So this MVP iteration is going to be step number 1 for finding product market fit. Second thing is going to be having the right metrics. And why am I emphasizing on this? Because today we have the availability and the tools to gather lots of data and to analyze this data massively. So what you want to do is make sure that you're tracking the correct metrics, because you are going to be using all of the possible data to improve your decision. So you have to think of which are the KPIs or key performance indicators that will be relevant to your product. And this, I won't even give you a list because they will change depending on every different product. Some that you should consider are maybe retention rates. So are users that have tried your product sticking around and using it? Also, you may think how many users are actively using the product versus how many just bought it and they're not using it. If someone's not using it, this may be a good indicator that still this is not the right it or the right product that you're solving, because it's not something that they are needing. You may think of also, for example, the Net Promoter Score or NPS. This is one that is very commonly used in marketing, but it is asking the question, are people willing to recommend your product? And this is very important, because if you have a promoter, someone that will for sure recommend your product, we know that this person is liking it. If someone wouldn't recommend your product, it means that you're far from finding this product market fit. And Well, of course, another one would be growth, but growth may be tricky because you may be in this iterative process, so of course, growth may not be as fast. But one good thing that you can try doing while you're on this growth path is going to be looking at the opposite. Where are people dropping the process? So instead of looking, oh, how many new users I've had, you can try to see how many potential users I've had, but they started dropping. So it's kind of looking at the funnel stage, but not in marketing, in your own product. So I'm going to put more examples to this so it makes more sense. If I'm developing my own website and I'm having people signing in and I'm having 1 million people watching the website and only 800,000 wanting to sign in, I already know this is going to be like a tiny funnel. Some people want to sign in, all of the others don't. Then I know that when they are being asked for their passport number, maybe half of them are going to drop. Then I'm going to know this is going to be something that's triggering them to stop in this process. So you can look at this funnel that you're creating with your product. Maybe you will require for their email and people are dropping at this phase. So you might decide, okay, I won't ask them for their email. I will decide to make them log in with Google, log in with Facebook, log in with other things. So this is going to be some important thing that you can use instead of looking at growth initially, because what you want to uncover now is if you are having the correct product. So again, using the right metrics is going to be what will help you start validating, and this is step number 2. Step number 3, it's going to be what the lean startup calls as pivoting or persevering. So this third step is going to be when you know, am I in the good tracks or I should just pivot and do something different. So you have to know that you're not fixated on the first product that you started with, because if you're seeing that people aren't liking it, then you should pivot and then go back and start the entire process all over again. And one example is Instagram that started as a location checking app before pivoting to photo sharing. So they started with an idea, they saw that nobody was using it, they're trying something new. So when customer feedback is going to suggest you a mismatch and you see that mismatch with the data, don't be afraid to pivot. Don't be afraid to change whatever idea you were thinking. So as you can see, the process, technically the steps are going to be very simple. Achieving it though is going to be another thing. And you will also see that there are some challenges and pitfalls when you're trying to achieve product market fit. First one is that you're building the product for yourself and not for the customer. So you have to avoid all possible assumptions about what the market needs. Second common pitfall is going to be that you're ignoring the feedback or misinterpreting the feedback even. So steps 2 and 3, you're doing them wrong. And not all feedback will be equal for sure. You have to focus on the patterns, but you can't ignore it and you can't misinterpret it. And the third thing is that you can't try to please everyone. If you are gathering so much feedback, maybe you should start narrowing and getting into a niche, because this will often lead to a faster PM, product market fit. So as you can see, this is going to be a concept that's super important. Sounds very easy to do, but not so hard to achieve. If you want to learn more about it, there are some amazing books that you can read, like The Right It that I already made a reference, or The Lean Startup. Both of those two that I just said are going to be very nice for understanding how to find the product market fit. I hope that you liked this episode, and if you did, please share it with a friend that also wants to learn about product market fit so we can keep spreading the knowledge together. If you liked my previous episodes, also, please write me a comment or give me a review, because this will help the podcast tremendously and it will also motivate me to keep sharing all of my MBA notes with you. So stay tuned, and I'll see you next week to keep learning about more MBA stuff.